Hi guys, Miss Headwell here. I'm back to read chapter 16 of the book Flush. I'm going to be breaking this chapter up into two parts. Chapter 16. I don't remember hitting the water, but I do remember sinking. Not very deep, but deep enough to remind me that I was wearing Abby's backpack. I could have ditched it, but that would have been the same as littering. Besides, Mrs. Abby Underwood was written with bright red marker in two different places on the backpack. If somebody found it and saw all those empty food coloring bottles, we were busted for sure. Hurriedly, I loosened one strap of the backpack to free my right shoulder, which made it easier to swim. I wasn't breaking any Olympic records, but I was definitely putting some distance between myself and the Coral Queen. At any moment, I expected the blue dinghy to come chugging into view, Abby riding to the rescue. Behind me, where the casino boat was moored, a shouting match had erupted. I turned my head and spotted Luno, stomping back and forth under the dock lights, hollering furiously at the two bouncers on the top deck. The bouncers were yelling back, pointing across the basin. Pointing at me, of course. I kicked harder, thinking, "Hurry up, Abby, hurry!" "Stop, boy!" Luno commanded. "You stop now!" He was running along the docks, trying to keep even with me, so I dove beneath the surface. The dirty water stung my eyes, and I squeezed them shut. It didn't matter, because even with my eyes wide open, I couldn't have seen a whale 3 inches in front of my nose. Not in that murky basin in the dead of night. I was swimming blind, but at least I was swimming. When I came up for air, a white blast of light caught me square in the face. "There he is!" Luno cried out. He was standing right on a fish-cleaning table, sweeping a portable spotlight across the basin. I ducked like a turtle and swam farther. When I popped up again, the same thing happened. The bright light, Luno yelling at me to stop. This time, though, he sounded closer. Where was my sister? The channel was at least 100 yards away. Luno would run out of dock before I'd run out of water. But I was getting exhausted. My clothes were slowing me down, and the waterlogged backpack felt heavier by the minute. Still, no sign of the dinghy. Even if my Geronimo wasn't loud enough, Abby surely must have heard Dusty Muleman's goons bellowing like bull elephants. I took a gulp of air and dove under again. 2 kicks later, I struck what seemed to be a wall of blubber. A wall that moved. Next thing I remember was me spinning like a top, then shooting upward, launched by some invisible brute force. Flying out of the water, I opened my eyes just in time to see an enormous brown shape, mossy and slick, pushing away at an incredible speed. A broad, round tail slapped the surface so hard it sounded like a rifle. Right away, I knew what had happened. I'd crashed into a sleeping manatee. I splashed down in a tumble. For a solid minute, I treaded water, not going anywhere, until my heart quit racing, and I was able to catch my breath. The marina was momentarily quiet, except for the merry chime of steel drums from the Coral Queen's Calypso band. Where in the world was Abby? And where was that caveman Luno? I began swimming again, although not as bravely as before. The collision with the sea cow had rattled me. I couldn't help wondering what other creatures might be cruising around that dark, cloudy basin. As huge as manatees are, they feed strictly on vegetation and have no appetite for humans. That's not true for everything that swims at night, especially certain large and fearless sharks. The water was as warm as soup, but an icy shiver ran down my neck as I kicked onward. I only know a few prayers by heart, but I said them all twice. That's how scared I was. I can't say for certain whether God was listening, but it wasn't long afterward that I heard the wheezing chug-a-chug-a-chug of a small outboard motor. I stopped moving and fixed my eyes in the direction of the noise. A familiar shape took form along the edge of the shadows, near the mouth of the basin. As the shape drew closer into the pale wash of the dock lights, I recognized the blue dinghy and the spindly silhouette of my sister at the helm. Excitedly, I called Abby's name, and she responded with our prearranged signal. 3 rapid blinks of her flashlight. I set out for the little boat as fast as I could, not caring how much noise I made. All I wanted was to get out of the water in one piece. Abby whistled, but I was too exhausted to whistle back. The dinghy was no longer headed in my way. In fact, it seemed to be sliding away in the current. By the time I caught up, my arms and legs were starting to cramp. I grabbed onto the bow and, with my sister's help, hauled myself aboard. At first, I couldn't even talk. I just sat there, dripping and panting like an old tired dog. Finally, I shook off the backpack and dried my face with the tail of Abby's shirt. "You okay?" she asked. I nodded and rubbed my aching muscles. "How come you turned off the engine?" "I didn't," Abby said. "It stalled out." "Nice. That's how come I was late getting here. It took like forever to get the stupid thing started." I stepped to the stern to confront the creaky old Evinrude. The starter cord was a 3-foot length of rope that wrapped tightly around the engine's flywheel. A small block of plastic served as a handle on the exposed end of the rope, so you could pull it without shredding your fingers. Hand cranking an outboard is harder than starting a lawnmower. Marine engines have more horsepower, so it takes more strength to turn the flywheel. After bracing my heels against the transom of the dinghy, I locked both hands around the grip of the starter cord. "Do it," said my sister. "Keep your fingers crossed." I reared back and yanked. The engine shuddered, coughed once, then went silent. "Crap," mumbled Abby. "Don't worry," I said, which was ridiculous. Only an idiot wouldn't have been worried. I shifted my weight slightly and took hold of the rope again. "Let it happen, Captain," said Abby. At that instant, the dinghy lit up like a movie stage. Luno had found us with his spotlight. Abby and I shielded our eyes and tried to see where he was. His voice gave us the answer. He was close. Too close. "You! Again!" we heard him snarl. "You 2 punks! This time you no get away!" He was standing at the end of the last dock in the marina. Off our port side was the mouth of the basin, and, beyond that, the open sea. If I could only get Rahdo's darn engine started, Abby and I could escape. Again, I tried the starter cord, and again nothing happened but a sad sputter. "We're drifting toward the dock," my sister said gloomily. "I can see that. Should we jump?" "No, not yet." 4, 5, 6 times I pulled the rope with the same depressing results. Meanwhile, a breeze was pushing the dinghy steadily toward the dock, where Luno was pacing like a hungry cat. For amusement, he would occasionally zap us with the hot beam of his spotlight. Abby crunched low in the bow, but I had to keep standing. It was the only way to put enough force into pulling the starter cord. As we floated closer to the light, we could make out Luno's gloating expression. His smile was thin and ugly. Frantically, I jerked on the starter cord, and this time the old engine gave an encouraging kick before sputtering out. Luno crowed, "I get you punks now." My sister poked me in the back. "Noah, look, quick!" Another figure had joined the bald goon at the end of the dock. I recognized him immediately in that flowered Hawaiian shirt, but just the stink from his cigar would have given him away. It was Dusty Muleman himself. "I'm out of here," said Abby, poised to jump. "No, wait." I feverishly resumed hauling on the starter cord, one hard pull after another. Nothing makes you forget how tired you are, like pure, cold fear. I was working like a robot in high gear. Then my sister cried, "Noah, duck!" And ducking would have been a smart move, no doubt about it. Because I turned to see Luno with his meaty right arm extended, aiming a stubby-looking gun at the dinghy. Dusty stood off to the side, blowing lazy rings of blue smoke. The scene was so unreal, I just froze. It was like watching someone else's nightmare. I felt blank and numb and far away. "What's the matter with you? Get down!" Abby yelled. By now, we drifted within 50 feet of the dock, which made us an easy target. Finally, an alarm bell went off in my brain, and I threw up both hands, shouting, "Don't shoot! We give up!" Dusty chuckled quietly. Luno was leering like a psycho. He did not lower the gun barrel, even 1 millimeter. "You kids make bad mistake," he said. "Now must pay." If I ever was going to wet my pants in public, it would have been right then and there. Yet, all I could think about was protecting my sister, so I threw myself on top of her. The landing wasn't so graceful. I banged my chin on the gunwale and nearly capsized us. Wrapping my arms around Abby, I waited for the explosion of a gunshot. It never came. A fierce and breathless struggle had broken out on the dock. Peeking over the side of the dinghy, Abby and I witnessed an amazing sight. As if dropped from the stars, a third man had materialized under the dock lights, and he was pounding Luno into a sweaty lump of jello. The only sign of Dusty Muleman was the slapping of his designer flip-flops against the ground as he scurried off in terror toward the Coral Queen. The cheerful tinkle of steel drums now mixed in with Luno's odd, piggish grunts. The wiry stranger swinging a deck mop with painful accuracy. In fact, he wasn't a total stranger to me and my sister. We were near enough to see the M-shaped scar on his weathered tan face, and the bright gold coin swinging from the chain around his neck. "The pirate guy," Abby whispered gleefully. "Outrageous!" "Don't you dare move," I told her, and clambered to the stern. I seized the handle of the starter rope, and from a squatting position, yanked with every ounce of muscle I had left. By some small miracle, the rickety old engine purred to life. I whipped the dinghy around and aimed it toward the channel and twisted the throttle wide open. I glanced back just as the mysterious pirate was hurling Luno's stubby gun into the basin. For an old geezer, he had a pretty good arm. And that is part A of chapter 16.